All right, let's try to sneak the last two in here. We may go a little bit long, but that's, hey, we're not on a network. We don't have to worry about it too much. Let's talk with Ashley. Hi, Ashley.
Hey, Dr. White.
How are you?
Hi. Yeah, very good, very good. Big fan of your show. And I actually have a lot of your books adorning my my bookshelf at the moment. So, yeah, great work.
Well, good. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, well, the question I have revolves around basically everything that you see in the Old Testament. From what I can see, so the circumcision, circumcision seems to be a representation of the circumcision of the heart. The blood that you see across the doors of the people in Egypt represents the fact that
Okay.
through those who are justified, Jesus' blood will cover them. Basically, what I'm asking about is the animal sacrifice that was done in the Old Testament. Did that actually cover sins, or were they merely a representation of the sacrifice of Christ's death on the cross?
Well, I think the answer is given in Romans and Hebrews. Both Hebrews, of course, specifically says there is no forgiveness of sins in the blood of goats and bulls and calves. So why do this? Well, as Paul explains in Romans 3, in talking about Christ Jesus, says in verse 25, whom God displayed publicly as a propitiation in his blood through faith. This was demonstrated his righteousness, because in the forbearance of God he passed over the sins previously committed. The demonstration, I say, of his righteousness at the present time, so that he would be just and the justifier of the one who has faith in Jesus. So what you have is the idea that in light of the certainty of the sacrifice of Christ, in light of the certainty of the cross, God passes over the sins previously committed. Now, if they had been quote-unquote atoned for by some other mechanism other than the blood of Christ, then they wouldn't have to be passed over. But there is no atonement in the blood of goats and bulls and calves, but they point forward to that finished work of Christ, and it's faith in God's promises that has always been the foundation of a person's relationship with Christ. And the cross being the center point of history, now we look back upon that. Those before the cross look forward to that. We obviously are able to see with much more clarity looking back than they could looking forward. But the point is that the cross was an absolute necessity to fulfill the grounds upon which God had been propitious and gracious to those who had come before, who had believed in him. And it has to be the same ground. The same ground for those who came before, the same ground for those who come after the cross. It's all faith, and it's all the sacrifice of Christ.
Awesome. So essentially it's the same mechanism. So whether before Christ's incarnation and death and resurrection, or after, we're justified in the same way.
Well, as far as the grounds goes, yes. As far as our knowledge of that, obviously being afterwards, we have the great advantage of a much clearer revelation, a much clearer knowledge of what God has done. But as far as the basis upon which anyone will ever stand before God, given that the standard is perfection, it has to be the same ground.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you for your call, sir.
Cheers. No problem.
All right. God bless. Bye-bye. All right. One last one. Let's talk to Marie. Hi, Marie.
Hi.
Hi.
Thanks for taking my call.
Yes.
I've got a quick question about Islam. I have a couple of really good friends who are Muslims. First and foremost, they are friends. And because they're friends, we do get into conversations. And one thing they have said that I can't find answered anywhere is that Jesus didn't mean everything he said. And I don't know how to answer that. And I wondered if you could help me with where they're coming from.
Jesus didn't mean everything he said.
Yeah. Never heard it before.
No.
I've watched lots of debates and things.
Yeah, and I've done lots of debates. Never heard that one either. So I'd need a context. I don't know what they mean by that.
Well, I can't think of the conversation generally now, and some of it was confidential, but we were just talking generally, and when I speak naturally, I don't even realise I'm doing it half the time, but I will quote the Lord and what he said. I will quote the Bible. And I said, oh, yeah, but, well, Jesus said... and the response was, oh, yeah, but Jesus didn't mean everything that he said.
I have a feeling that what they're probably talking about, this is my best guess, is many Muslims will say that Jesus spoke metaphorically. And so, for example, when he said he was the Son of God, he didn't really mean he was the Son of God. He was just saying he was a godly man or something along those lines. That's fairly common. I've yet to meet a Muslim who was even semi-close to consistent in how they made application of that, or had any idea how you could tell the difference between a metaphorical statement or a factual statement or anything else. And fundamentally what they were doing was, well, anything that Jesus said that doesn't fit into the misunderstandings of the author of the Quran has to be taken metaphorically and couldn't be taken literally. That'd be the only guess I could give you as to what they're actually referring to, is that they're basically saying that there were things that Jesus said that were meant to be taken metaphorically, not literally.
Right.
And at that point, you have to go, well, what are your rules for determining that? I mean, can I not just simply say that you mean that metaphorically and you don't really mean it? Obviously, you do really mean it. There has to be something, when Jesus says, I am the door, there's something in the context that indicates that he's giving us a metaphor. He's using words to communicate something. But when he says, I am the Son of God, and quotes some Old Testament passages at his trial, and the Jewish leaders tear their robes and accuse him of blasphemy and he should die, he doesn't say, oh, no, you didn't understand. I was taking it metaphorically. No, he knows that at this point in time is not the time for metaphors. He's being very straightforward and he accepts their understanding. So there are rules in language that help us to understand what is a metaphor and what is not. You can't just simply say,
Right.
if I don't like what someone's saying, I'll just say it's a